Right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to our YouTube live session. Right. The second half of our December editorial session, we'll finish it today. We've already seen one half of it yesterday. Right. Hope you've found that session useful. And as usual, our PDFs and all, it is there in the description. You can download it. Right. So in this session, what we'll do, we'll just finish off the rest of the articles, right? So the important editorials of this month, we are trying to do it in these two sessions, right? How to make notes from these, right? All that, if you have any queries, you can put it in the comment box. Okay. Beyond that, make use of the material. The data is there already in it. You can use it for your mains exams, right? Apart from that, the same thing, they can ask it from the prelims perspective also. They can like rephrase the question and make it into a prelims related question as well by giving 3 or 4 statements. So we'll go to the first topic for today. It is with respect to ISRO's space ventures, right? So recently our ISRO is doing lot of new missions to space, right? So here we are talking about the next generation launch vehicle, right? So currently we are having our GSLV Mark 3, also known as launch vehicle Mark 3, right? So that is the launch vehicle that can take nearly 5 tons, right, to space. Now if we want to send astronauts to space, whether it is a Gaganyaan mission or whether we want to once again then send astronauts to the Bharatiya Antariksh station, for that and all you need launch vehicles which be able to take a heavier payload, right? So that is the main thing here, right? We are now limited to around 5000 tons of payload. So sorry, 5000 kg of payload. Now we want to ensure that at least 3 or 4 times of that is needed for us to go forward in our space ventures, right? So with respect to that, the article has given some examples. So if you take for example the Falcon 9, right? So which is nothing but a launch vehicle by SpaceX, right? It is Elon Musk owned company. So it is able to have a payload of nearly 8300 kg, right? And there is another one launch vehicle called as Starship, right? It has an ability to lift off with over 21,000 kg, right, to the GTO itself. So you might be aware the GTO is around 35,000 kilometers in altitude. So already there are launch vehicles which can take a much heavier payload to orbit, right? We are now limited to around 5000 kgs. Okay, so for increasing it, that becomes very important, and in this the article says that we have to involve the private sector as well, because ISRO alone cannot do it. ISRO is currently working on a next generation launch vehicle. Okay, so this next generation launch vehicle, it is said to have a lot of reusable components, as well as it is said to have a payload of around 10,000 kg. Okay, so that is what is mentioned in the article. So we can just summarize it. So you can see, you can get a question like this in mains, right? India shaping the future of space exploration with reusable rockets, private sector growth and vision for global leadership analyze. So you must understand that ISRO is one of the successful government ventures in all, compared to every field, every sector. ISRO is one of the most successful of ours, right? And you might have heard this Interstellar, Mars, as well as all these Hollywood films. The budget of those films is much more than our Chandrayaan missions and all, right? As well as Mangalyaan mission. So in a very cost effective manner, in a frugal manner, we have been able to achieve huge amount of success, right? And we have planned a lot of very ambitious things like Gaganyaan, Bharatiya Antariksh station, and then space tourism. And apart from that, a lot of missions like Shukrayaan to Venus, right? So a lot of missions are planned. Even Mangalyaan as well as Chandrayaan, further missions are being planned, right? So mention all of those you're also aware of how New Space India Limited is established to involve more the private sector in the launch vehicle industry, right? How it has been the small satellite launch vehicle is to be manufactured entirely by the private only. So mention about New Space India Limited, mention about ISPA, how it is bringing together various stakeholders so that we will be able to have the best policies to promote the space industry. Give examples of different space startups, right? How they are revolutionizing the innovation in the space sector, right? So you can mention all of that. So next generation launch vehicle, they are aiming it to be at least 10,000 kg payload. So 10,000 kg payload, it will go to the GTO around 35,000 kilometers in altitude. If it is going to go to the low Earth orbit around 500 kilometers altitude, then 20 tons it will be able to carry, or 20,000 kg. Okay, so 20 tons or 20,000 kg, and predominantly they want to incorporate and make it as reusable as possible. And even the jet fuels, they want to make it eco-friendly, right? So that is the thing. Yesterday we saw about antimatter, right? So you can mention that here. Antimatter, one of the applications is for the jet fuel, right? So target first flight by 2030, and as the article already mentions, existing launch vehicles by SpaceX already have this much capability. Okay, and they have launch vehicles which can carry far more also. So by the time another 9 years in which this thing is going to come, already it would have been outdated, because it's outdated already. So now we need to speed it up, and that is possible only if we involve various players like the private sector. So that's what the article is saying, right? And mention these institutions. InSpace is there. InSpace, if any private wants to liaise and use the testing facilities which are available only with ISRO, then they can apply through InSpace, get access to the testing facility and all. New Space India Limited, it will bring new customers to ISRO, Indian customers. Antrix does the same for the foreign customers, bringing new foreign customers to ISRO. That's the job of Antrix. NSIL bringing Indian customers to ISRO. And apart from that, ensure that the private sector produces the small satellite launch vehicle. That mandate specifically has been given to the NSIL. Apart from that, mention the ISPA also, right? It's like a body that will hold regular meetings with all the stakeholders, whether it is the foreign industry, Indian private sector, the bureaucrats, the government, representatives from ISRO. All of them will be there in a particular place. They'll get to know each other's problems, so that better policies can help the growth of the Indian space sector further. So Indian space policy is also there, empowering the private sector. Okay, and the contributions of private sector, this Agnikul, this was there in the news, right? So you can make some examples of the private space startups, right? So challenges, you need to have a lot of more testing facilities available, access to credit, right? You need to reduce the bureaucratic approvals, bottlenecks and all. Opportunity, huge opportunity is there. We can corner the global market. A lot of profit is there to be made by helping the, providing the launch vehicles for the private payload to go abroad. To go to the space from the customers abroad. So it will help us to make a lot of money, right? So that's about the thing with respect to ISRO. Now moving on to the next article, it is with respect to the impeachment of judges. Right, recently you might have heard there was this controversy about one particular judge of Allahabad High Court. Right, he had mentioned certain remarks, and that had angered certain sections of the society, and they have now moved the impeachment procedure, right? So here you have to be very, very careful. You need to know how it is done. Okay, it is mentioned in the constitution. Based on that only the impeachment can be done. For this you need the special majority, right? You can bring in the provision either in the Lok Sabha or in the Rajya Sabha, right? It is there in under Article 124. Okay, so you need to ensure that 2/3 of those present and voting, and at least 50% of the total membership of the house, they have to pass it. Then there will be an inquiry, and the inquiry, once again, it will submit the report, and then it should be submitted to the president in the same season, and then the president also must pass the order. All this should happen within the same sitting, that is in the same session itself, right? So if it happens within the same season, then impeachment can happen, right? All this, it's quite difficult. Why they have kept it is to ensure the independence of the judiciary. So here you need to know the articles, you need to know the procedure, and certain instances of impeachment had been tried before for cases of corruption and all. 4 or 5 cases are there, but many of the times what happens is it does not go through. Nobody has yet gotten impeached. Procedure for starting the initiation of impeachment, that has taken place before, but nobody has of now has been impeached, no judge. Okay, so that is the thing. So article 124, grounds for removal for Supreme Court judges, either through proven misbehavior or incapacity, right? So article 217, this extends the article 124 to High Court judges, right? So what happens in this? First, the grounds for removal, right? Initiation of the motion, you can do it in the Lok Sabha or the Rajya Sabha. Lok Sabha means 100 people should sign it, only then it will get initiated. Rajya Sabha means 50, right? And then what happens? There will be one inquiry committee that will be created. It will consist of Supreme Court judge, Chief Justice of High Court, and an eminent jurist, right? And then there will be an investigation and the charge framing. Then the committee will find the report to the submit the report to the Parliament, right? Then they have to once again pass the report. They have to accept it, right? If they accept it, if the report says that yes, the person is found to be guilty, then by special majority it has to be passed. Then within the same season, the president also should sign it. So these are some of the things. Most of the time it's for corruption. Okay. So the challenges is it's a lengthy process, so you cannot make it simple because then it will affect the independence of the judiciary, right? So these are some of the things, so just know about it. The next important article, it is with respect to the urban local government polls. So you might be aware of the urban local bodies 74th Constitutional Amendment Act in 1992. They only brought it in, right? This article talks about how one nation one election. Conveniently, they have not spoken about including the urban local bodies into the one nation one election concept. The one nation one election talks about only the Lok Sabha as well as state legislative assembly elections. One reason why they have given is that the local polls, whether it is the urban local body or rural local body, the local polls are the responsibility of the state government. So they have said that it is outside of our ambit and we are not going to discuss about it, right? But in lot of states, there are a lot of delays in conducting the local body elections, especially to the urban local bodies. There are more than 4,800 urban local bodies, and it constitutes 40% of India's population. And when that much amount of people can be affected, if the states are not holding the local body elections on time for the urban bodies, it is a great blot on democracy. Not only that, it brings a lot of problems. The people do not have any elected representative who they can petition their issues, in which case once again the state government takes over the role and then it has to it will do the work. But once again, already the state government is overburdened with various issues, and you might be aware, even the Gandhian philosophy is grassroots level governance only. Any problem that can be solved at the lowest level, it should be solved at the lowest level only. So for that is the reason why we have created the grassroots level governance. And the article also gives very good example of the CAG, where they have found that the elections are delayed in over 60% of the urban local bodies. Out of the 4,800, in 60% of them, it is always delayed. And in many places, what happens is, even if the elections are held, the councils are it takes years for them to form the council. Then what is the point of the conducting the election itself? So these are some of the issues that are there. Already we have seen other articles right, wherein the elected bodies at the lowest levels, whether it is the urban local body or rural local body, they are not having enough finances and they are not having enough powers. Okay, without their ability to raise finances for themselves, they are dependent on the central government and state government subsidies, and as a result they are not able to carry out their work properly. Okay, so all these were mentioned. Now another thing is the delay in the local body polls, right? So what are local bodies? You need to know it. The 73rd, 74 amendments, all that you have to know, right? Which schedule is for what? The constitution, what does it say with respect to the local bodies? Like for example, 1/3 of seats reserved for women. All these things you have to know. What are the roles of the urban local bodies handling the government services to the people, like wastewater, drinking water supply, sanitation, education, all these things, right? So it's the third tier of government, promoting grassroots level democracy. Elected representatives are there, 5-year tenure is there. State election commission separately is there for conducting the elections. Okay, so devolution of power has been given. Some of the powers are there given to the urban local bodies, right? So this will ensure that people participation will be there. Democratization will happen at the grassroots level. So what are the challenges faced by them? First, election itself delay. Another, if election is held, council formation delay. Another, not enough powers, not enough finances, right? The state government does not want to have a strong mayor. Okay, they feel that it will rival the chief minister itself. So that is one thing, right? Not of the urbanization, the pressures of urbanization. A lot of people are there. It's beyond the capability of the urban local body, especially with very less finance. Lack of skilled employees, poor accountability, right? So all these are some of the challenges faced by them, right? Impact of one nation, one election on urban local body. Absolutely, as of now, the urban local body does not come under the one nation, one election. Okay. Way forward, how to address the challenges. You can mention the solutions for each of the problems we have mentioned. So financially, you need to devolve more funds, give them more power, ensure that the elections are held properly, councils are formed properly, and then there should be proper training. Only then it will be possible, right? You think, right, see how many polluted rivers are there in the urban areas. It's easily possible, you give it to a committed governance structure. For example, take Japan. If 1 year is given to them to run, for example, our Chennai corporation, they will ensure that the problem of pollution is handled. They'll ensure that the problem of the waste segregation is handled. They'll make the Kuam river once again, they'll make it pristine, right? So it needs some behavioral change from us as citizens as well. See, we cannot be very very filthy, throw all the rubbish everywhere here and there, and then blame everything on the government. We need to develop that sense of civic sense, right? What they call, we need to develop that, and we need to practice what we preach, right? I have personally seen people who are educated, they throw all the plastic, paper and all, they all have B degrees, even ME degrees, all that, but that's the reality. Even they throw the litter from the car, they will roll down the window and then throw the plastic bottle on the road, right? There are such type of people, not few, 90% of them who have car, they behave like that. So whether person is greatly educated, having more money, it does not bring civic sense to the people, right? So that is the thing. So these are all some of the points, you can make use of them. We'll move on to the next article. This is with respect to quantum computing, and here beautiful data has been presented by the author. If you take the GDP wise comparison, if you take on the whole, US is ahead of China, but if you take the GDP wise comparison that is adjusted to purchasing power parity, China is ahead of US by 4 trillion. That is the thing. Understand that China has already overtaken US if purchasing power parity adjustment is done to the GDP. Okay, so that is one thing. And the author has mentioned 5 or 6 major technologies that will decide the future. This will only give the maximum power to the countries which are having good capability in these fields. Which are they? AI, semiconductors, quantum computing, genetic biotechnology, clean technology and space. So already for space, some of the articles we have seen, like our ISRO. For biotechnology, generic medicines and all, we have seen some articles. You might have seen yesterday South Africa has allowed the gene edited babies, so that is one thing. Clean technology, we are having this green hydrogen mission and all. We are having a lot of schemes for promoting clean technology, but once again the biggest problem for the clean technology, the rare earths and all predominantly found in China only. Okay, and we do not have much production of rare earths. India has only, I think, 6% of the rare earths of the world. We need a huge amount of rare earths. Okay, countries like Kazakhstan, they have lot of rare earth. It is very essential that we sign the agreements with them so that we can get the import of rare earths. China, it only is the biggest exporter of rare earths, and as and now, due to its as and when according to its whims and fancies, it can restrict the export. Already we are dependent on active pharmaceutical ingredient export from China. Only then we can make the generic medicine. We are dependent on anti-money from China, right? Only then we can make once again all our solar panels and all, batteries, solar panels and all. So the thing is that China can restrict the rare earths at any whim and fancy. So we need to make agreements with countries like Kazakhstan, Australia and all. With Australia, we already have one agreement, right? India-Australia critical mineral partnership is there. With Kazakhstan, we need to make it. With respect to biotechnology, once again, we are having some schemes, right? You have the BIRAC, right? Biotechnology Industry Research Assistance Council. So the BIRAC is there. It is promoting a lot of research initiatives in biotechnology. For quantum computing, National Quantum Mission is there, right? So we are doing some movement in all these fields. If you take AI, recently that supercomputer Airavat was there, right? Airavat, if you take Airavat at the world level, it is ranked only 75. Okay, it is India's best supercomputer, but the thing is that it is still ranked only in the 75th in the world. Okay, and recently this Google has introduced one quantum chip called as Willow. Okay, this can solve under 5 minutes what would take 10 septillion years. Septillion, you go and find out 10 to the power how many, what will be the notation. It's like 10 septillion years for the world's fastest supercomputer. It is now able to do in under 5 minutes. Okay, septillion means, you see, a trillion trillions, one followed by 24 zeros. Okay, already Google developed one processor called as Sycamore in 2019, which made history by performing 200-second task that would take a good supercomputer 10,000 years. Now we see the improvement in 5 years. Septillion, that is trillion years, it is now able to do. That is the leap that they have done. Okay, so we need to ensure that we don't miss the bus this time, right? We missed the bus with respect to manufacturing. That is why every manufacturing company is there in China. We missed the bus in that. We cannot afford to do it once again in this also. Okay, so that is what the author is highlighting, because whoever is going to be a leader in all of these technologies, they will have the first mover advantage. They will be the one who is going to play frame the global policies, global standards and all. That will be a huge advantage. Okay, so the author is saying that talented people exist in India. He has given the example of Gukesh, right? How he has defeated the Chinese Ding Liren to become the world champion in chess. So talented people are there, brain power is there, but we need to make use of ensuring that those people don't go to US, right? So these are some of the points raised by the author. So what is quantum computing? So that is the thing here. Science and tech topics with respect to UPSC, you need to know the definition, you need to know the advantage, you need to know the application, you need to know if any problems are there and how to overcome those problems. These are the 4 ways which you need to know with respect to a particular topic. Yesterday we saw about these antimatter and all. You don't have to worry about deeply the concepts. Only know the definition, know the application, know the advantage. If any of the issues are there, the issue and how to overcome the issue. These 4 things only you need to know. Okay. Quantum computing, what it is, right? It uses the quantum mechanics for the complex computations, exponentially faster than traditional computer. Traditional computer use the binary, right? 0, 1. Quantum, it is able to do it lot faster. Okay, it can solve the problems in various fields. With respect to India, Airavat, that is the latest supercomputer we have developed. Google's new chip Willow, previous chip Sycamore, India's first supercomputer. That name also is mentioned here, right? Just go through it. And who built the first supercomputer? That Param 8000. It was Vijay Bhatkar. Okay, so that also is mentioned. You can go through it. And then they have given what is semiconductors, right? Materials which can conduct electricity, right? At a specific parameters are there, only then it will conduct. Okay, backbone, it is the backbone of lot of electronics, right from your smart watches, smart appliances, the electric vehicles, our phones, laptops, everything is made up of chips, right? So the thing is that with respect to the semiconductor manufacturing, most of the things, the manufacturing capability, right, it is there only in the Western nations. The biggest semiconductor chip manufacturer is Taiwan. Okay, they have the technology. You might have heard of TSMC, whether it is your Snapdragon processor, whether it is your Apple that A15 Bionic, whether it is the Google Tensor chip, right, whether it is Dimensity processor, whether it is the Kirin processor, whatever it is manufactured by Taiwan. They have the capability. Okay, apart from that, some facilities are there in Japan, some are there in Netherlands, right? In US now they are creating facilities. So these are the things. India, we are trying to attract, the semiconductor mission also is there for promoting manufacture of semiconductor wafers. That is what they call, right? Etching, wafers, lithography, all these things, right? We are trying to attract, right, 10 billion to attract the global manufacturers. The other important technology, genetic engineering, DNA manipulation using technologies, gene editing tools are there, CRISPR, Cas9, all that you would have heard, right? GM crops, gene therapy, this thing was there, right? IIT Bombay, CAR T cell therapy, that's an example of gene therapy, right? So bioremediation, industry, that is biofuels, biodegradable plastic. So all these things is possible through genetic engineering. So recent thing, Dara mustard hybrid, right? CRISPR, this Dara mustard hybrid, Agrobacterium tumefaciens, you might have heard of that. CRISPR is their national biopharma mission. All these things, genetics engineering and all comes under the GEAC, Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee. Without its approval, you can't do the research in these things, right? Clean technology for improving the air quality, water quality. So you might have heard Delhi, how polluted it is, right? We already saw that. CAQM is there, GRAP is there, all these things are there. So read about it. How it promotes economics, how it promotes energy security, how it is better for the environment, all that is there, right? Fourth largest energy producer, renewable energy producer. Now once again, installed capacity is one thing, ensuring what is the percentage of the power that we are using, that is another thing. Installed capacity, we can have 500 gigawatt of renewable power, or 50% of the installed capacity is in renewable power, but at a given point of time, renewable is contributing only 20%, not more than that. So 80%, more than that, is coming from the fossil fuel based source only at any point of time. The biggest problem why that happens is it's because of the periodicity of renewables. They are not perpetual, right? Solar will not work at night, so you need to have the battery energy storage, BESS technology, so that you can store the renewable and then keep it. So for this only the Bharat small modular reactor and all is there, that will ensure that it will give a sustainable clean power. So study about that, only then we can actually all these telling that we are the having 50% installed capacity as renewable, that means nothing if it is not going to be reflected in terms of usage at any given point of time. Okay, so for that you need to ensure that without any fluctuation, constant supply of reliable power that only nuclear can give, we need to promote the small modular reactor. Okay, electric vehicles, FAME scheme is there, we have heard of it. Green hydrogen mission is there. PM e-drive scheme, race latest one, that also is there. PM Kusum scheme is there. Kisan Urja Suraksha Yam Uttam Maha Abhiyan. Our Muft Bijli Yojana, that is also there. Go read about them, right? So what are the challenges in India's technological development? Main problem is limited R&D investment. See the R&D investment in India and US, you can see the difference. See the difference between India and China. China far ahead, okay, in every sector, right? Trade deficit with China, bureaucratic hurdles, inefficiency, corruption, brain drain, all these are the problems that are constricting India's growth, right? So the next article, related topic only, green hydrogen. So green hydrogen you would have heard, depending on how the hydrogen is produced, whether it is through fossil fuels, whether it is through solar, whether it is through renewable, like for example wind or hydropower, how the electricity is produced, and then using that electricity to split up the water. That's how hydrogen is produced, electrolysis of water. Depending on that, color coding of hydrogen is there, please study that. Okay, and the green hydrogen, national green hydrogen mission is there, right? We have targets under that. Green port schemes are there, right? Green hydrogen port scheme is there, right? So certain ports they have created as green hydrogen port, okay, where they will create a manufacturing plant nearby itself for production of green hydrogen. So all that is there, go through it. This article, it shows that how nuclear is very cheap with respect to the levelized cost of electricity, that is the per unit cost of electricity. They are saying that nuclear is quite cheap, okay, compared to any other source, whether it is hydrogen or anything. Okay, so they are saying that green hydrogen, on one hand it should be given focus, at the same time we need to concentrate on the nuclear power also, nuclear fission. Okay, France and all, they have given example how more than 70% of energy of France is nuclear only, it's a clean power. So we need to do that, right? So that is the article telling. Okay, green hydrogen, what it is, right? When the hydrogen is produced by electrolysis of water, for that electricity is needed, that electricity should come from renewable. Solar means we call it yellow hydrogen, right? If it is coming from nuclear fission, then it is called as pink hydrogen. If it is produced from the what to say coal, then it is called as a black hydrogen. From natural gas, gray hydrogen, like that it is there. Okay, so study that and keep. The thing about hydrogen, if you are using green hydrogen, if you are producing and using the hydrogen as a source of energy, upon combustion only the water vapor is produced. So no pollution, no greenhouse gas emission, that is the thing. Remember, we do not consider water vapor as a greenhouse gas, though it has the greenhouse gas nature. Water vapor is good for the environment, only then it will rain. Okay, we don't consider it as a bad greenhouse gas. Okay, it's needed. So this can create a lot of jobs, right? It can improve our situation with respect to having the latest technology, right? So these are the advantages of green hydrogen. You can see how it is being produced, all that is there, you can just go through it. Applications, it can be used for producing the green fertilizers. Okay, it can be used in the fuel cell electric vehicle, that is hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, right? It can be used for the trade purpose, right? We can export it, generate a lot of forex. We can use it as a power source. All these are advantages. Okay, currently the high cost of production, storage, distribution, that is the big problem. Okay, so we need to concentrate on nuclear also. Okay, so you can go through all these things. Production of green hydrogen, the big problem is that renewable power is intermittent, so that is already one issue is there, right? So national green hydrogen mission, what it is, green hydrogen hubs, right? All these things, go through it. So the next article, it is with respect to, once again, our population only. Already we have seen yesterday few articles relating to the demography and all, how we saw articles related to total fertility rate and all, right? So here the particular article, it talks about how we are going to have a huge amount of working age population. Already around 67% of our population is of the working age, that is between 15 to 59 years. Okay, and approximately 26% of the population is below 14 years. Okay, and above 65 only 7% of the population is there. So dependency ratio, right, the 7% of the population who are dependent on others, they can't work on their own because they are elderly, so that is very less. So we are having what is called as a demographic dividend. By 2030 there will be more than 1 billion people in the working age between 15 to 59. Now all this can be a huge boon, or if we are not going to give them the proper education, proper health facility, proper opportunity, proper infrastructure, proper access to pursue what they deem worthwhile, if that is not given, then it can cause lot of discontentment, and when it causes discontentment, we will have 1 billion people who are discontented, will be a huge disaster. So that is what the article is stressing. And you can see the data already. National Family Health Survey 5, how our people are anemic, how our people are having the underweight, how our people are malnourished, how our children are stunted, how our children are wasted, how many of the children are having the morbidly obese, how many of the adults, men and women, who are morbidly obese, what is the immunization rate, underweight rate, right? How many of the people have access to the bank accounts? All that is given here in the article. Make use of the data. Okay. And it also mentions about the gross enrollment ratio from the annual status of education report. Make use of that also. Okay. So we need to ensure that proper skilling is provided to the children. Okay. They might not be interested in the academics in the traditional school. So for them, you need to ensure that you are giving them access to some skills and trades, like for example, the Vishwakarma mission and all, you can remember and write. Okay, so that they will be able to achieve their dreams, right? So that is the thing here, large population, all these things, right? That is the advantage we are having compared to the West, because in the West you are having the aging population, right? But these are all some of the problems. These are all once again with respect to education, some of the problems. Okay, the unemployment, underemployment, these are issues that are plaguing the economy. And amongst that, if you see the gender disparity, the women participation in the workforce is even less, participation in the labor force is even less. Okay, so all these things are mentioned, go through it. The next article, it is once again with respect to the minority rights. Okay, so here they are saying that it's quite one-sided, right? But we can just go through it. The data what is given is important, right? So you can see it here. Okay, the United Nations General Assembly Declaration on Rights of Persons Belonging to National, Ethnic, Religious, Linguistic Minorities. It was on December 18, 1992. Okay, this December 18 only is the Minority Rights Day. So that is the first thing you have to note. December 18 is celebrated every year, Minority Rights Day. Okay, then the next important thing, they have given the origin of the minority rights. Okay, Article 19, Austrian Constitutional Law 1867, right? Then the Hungarian Act. Okay, then the Swiss Confederation Act. Fine. Eventually, this resulted in Article 27, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, that is there. So mention that also. Okay. So then the important thing, our constitution, Article 25 to 30, this you must note, 25 to 28 with respect to religious minority, 29, 30 cultural educational rights. Okay, so study about that, right? And next, some of the verdicts also they have given. Okay, Aligarh Muslim University 2024 verdict, then Saint Xavier College 1974 verdict, Kesavananda Bharati case, how it said that minority rights is basic structure doctrine. So go through that. Okay, so all these are points that have been mentioned. Okay, only thing what I would say, why it is very one-sided is Austria, Switzerland, Hungary and all have a minority, and then they have created minority rights. If you see the Middle East, if you see the Arab countries, if you see the Islamic countries, none of them are having any minorities left. You might understand the plight of the minority in Afghanistan or Pakistan or Bangladesh, right? And understand the importance of how the Hindus or Sikhs or Jains are suffering there. In Afghanistan, entirely they have come to zero. Now you might ask, sir, why should we worry about other countries? In fact, these and all were not other countries prior to 1947. These people and all were Indians only, they were living in that area only, that area was also India only. And overnight, the Indian National Congress accepted to the partition, but did not create any safe space for those communities. Those who had the money, they ran away, came here to India. Those who did not have the money, they stayed there itself. Now, if we are agreeing to the partition, the Indian National Congress should have the responsibility for protecting the minorities of those countries, isn't it not? Because you did not go and ask them whether partition is accepted or not. They were living in an area that was part of India. Now that 1/3 of that India has been made an Islamic republic, and then they are left to die. So that is the anger that people have when people start virtue signaling on secularism. People start virtue signaling on fundamental rights, human rights, free speech. All of that, it is a obnoxious one-way street. where one particular community alone can be the villain and one particular community can never be anything else apart from the victim. You can see the photo itself, you will understand what I am saying. That is the obnoxious thing that these dubious people are doing. So anyway, that is the situation now. What to do? Nothing we can do, right? So we will concentrate on how to pass the exam, right? So the global context, we have already discussed how in Austria, how in Hungary, then the United Nations Declaration on Minority Rights, then United Nations Declaration on Human Rights, then Articles 25 to 28, 29, 30, all that is there, go through it, right? So key arguments, all that is there. So please know, remember the articles by heart. Be, if I ask you what is Article 14, you need to know. So be thorough, right? So key challenges in protecting the minority rights, right? Now once again, some points are mentioned, you can go through it. It is the same thing, it's a boring topic, right? Anytime we, the Hindu newspaper wants to virtue signal, we have already discussed this, they'll put some fillers, right? It's their nature, right? Judicial interpretations, TMA Pi Foundation case, Ahmedabad St. Xavier College case, Kerala Education Bill case. This is important. The outcome alone, you need to have it by heart in one line. Okay. Relevant of the rights, right? Promoting diversity, empowerment, social harmony, all these things. Now, the next article, it is with respect to the bilateral relations, right? So, this article talks about Kuwait, right? The Prime Minister recently visited Kuwait, and this article also talks about the historic, relationship with Kuwait. How we did not condemn Iraq when it invaded Kuwait. Of course, we did not condemn Iraq when it invaded Kuwait. That's because we are having our strategic interest with respect to Iraq. Okay. If we are having a strategic interest, we have to work for that only. We cannot work for, practice naive diplomacy and tell that, oh, it's wrong, oh, this is right, this is wrong. That is why we failed, right, in ensuring that we are not where should we have been, right? There is a definite amount of achievement which we should have done in these 75 years. The main reason why we are not where we are supposed to be, it's because instead of practicing strategic autonomy and safeguarding our interest, certain people, for their own selfish reasons, they preached the values. The country that is arguing with you, it will safeguard its interest. So we should also safeguard our interest. But instead, if we are preaching values, for them it will be safeguarding their interest, but we have to decide based on what is good, wrong, morality and all. Then we will always be in the receiving end of the decision only, right? So anyway, the author is sad that we are changing. He is saying that we should still be naive and ensure that we shoot ourselves in the foot, right? So take the points from it, don't take his opinion. So what are the important things that are there with respect to the article? We can just summarize, right? Historical context with respect to Kuwait. So India-Kuwait relations, it's there in the pre-colonial period. Then in post-colonial period, these are the things. 2000 onwards, the increasing ties with respect to energy security. Lot of Indian diaspora living there, right? So crude oil import, 9+ million Indians in the Gulf overall. Then trade relations, we are having the robust relationship with the Gulf countries, right? You might have heard IMEC corridor and all. So India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor, even the international north-south transport corridor passing through Iran, that also Middle East important thing, right? Can go through it. We are focusing on certain countries which we have good relationship like UAE and all. Okay. With respect to Kuwait also, we are having good relationship only. What happened in the past with respect to Iraq and all, it's a bygone era. Okay. So you can go through these things. Challenges, geopolitical rivalries, that is one thing. This Sunni Shia issue is going on. Once again, we will not intervene in all of that, right? It's unnecessary for us, right? Energy transition, right? Even you might have heard the UAE COP, UNFCCC, they spoke about the transition fuel of natural gas. So Kuwait and all is a huge producer of natural gas also, right? So these are some of the points. So go through it. What is India's Gulf strategy overall? All that is given here. Recently, India UAE SEPA agreement has been signed, so you can go through that. Right. So next thing, once again, very important article. Right. Making the generics more affordable. Right. So you know that India is the generic capital of the world. We are producing the generic medicines. Right. We have the capability of reverse engineering even the branded drugs. Okay. Out of pocket expenditure in India is 39.4%. It will cause a huge hole in the pocket. Person will go into poverty if he wants to live. If he suddenly gets the surgery, some problem is there in the body, goes to hospital, needs surgery. To live, he has to become a beggar. That is the situation. Somehow we are trying to change that. One of the things you might have heard, Jan Arogya Yojana. Another thing, we are having the Pradhan Mantri Bharatiya Jan Aushadhi Pariyojana medicine shops, through which we are selling the generic drugs nearly 50% to 90% cheaper compared to the branded medicines. But the thing is that they are saying that generics are good quality. Okay, but the problem is effectiveness is very less. You can see here the effectiveness of a branded drug, it is 73%. But the generic, for the same issue, person had the generic medicine that is, having the same ingredient, active ingredient like the branded medicine, effectiveness is only 29%. So you can see the difference. Branded medicine costly, 70% effectiveness. The generic medicine only 29% effectiveness. This is the biggest problem. Okay, if this effectiveness is not going to be improved, we need to look into this. CDSCO is there, Central Drug Standard Control Organization. They have to ensure that the genetic medicines pharmacokinetic parameters have to increase. Okay, now they have having the variation, right, 80% to 125% range they are accepting, which is very wide threshold. They need to make it more stringent, right? Only then genetics they will be effective. If because people lose the trust, then they might not buy the generics anymore. Okay, one thing is to give the medicine a cheap rate, but that medicine should work. Okay, so CDSCO has to take into account this, and even the best manufacturing practices. So you are having the global manufacturing practices, GMP, right? The standards, for export, the standards are more strict when we have to export those drugs to Europe or US. But for the sale within the country, they need to ensure that the standard once again is equal to the export standard. So that is what the author is also mentioning. Okay, so you can go through these points. Okay, remember what is CDSCO, who is the Drugs Controller General of India, what is product patent, what is process patent, right? What is generic medicine, what is a branded medicine, what is active pharmaceutical ingredient, all these things you need to know. Okay. So what are generic medicines? We've discussed that. How out of pocket expenditure is high. We have seen that Bharatiya Jan Aushadhi Pariyojana, the Jan Aushadhi medicine shops that is there. Remember, there's another one medicine shop run by the government that's called as Amrit medicine store. That will be there mostly in the government hospitals itself, in the tertiary hospitals. PM BJP shops will be there in the street, but Amrit medicine shops, that also run by the government, that will be there in the tertiary hospitals itself. Amrit medicine shop comes under Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. PM BJP comes under Ministry of Chemicals Fertilizers. Remember that. Okay, so variability in therapeutic outcomes, this is one big problem. Okay, he has given the example also. Manufacturing issues, right? Bioequivalence, the threshold is very high, 80 to 125. You need to make it more narrowed so that it will be of the as close as possible effectiveness with respect to the innovator drug. So go through it. Okay. The next article, once again with respect to the bilateral relations here with respect to Sri Lanka. So India-Sri Lanka relations, once again you might remember Sri Lanka had a lot of balance of payment problems, so much so that their per capita income, you can see here, from 4,388 it has come down to 3,341. Okay, so $1,000 it has reduced. Okay, so that is the big problem here. Okay, so these are some of the things. Sri Lanka has got a lot of loans from India also, from IMF also, that is there. One thing we must try to improve our relationship with Sri Lanka. Definitely there are state actors within Sri Lanka itself who want to be pro China and they are against India. Okay, one important thing here, the fishermen issue. So for that only the deep ocean fishing mission is there, Palk Bay issue is there, Tamil Nadu fishermen getting shot, the Tamil Nadu fishermen doing bottom trawling in the Sri Lankan exclusive economic zone. All these problems are happening, right? So transponders and all are being fixed in the boats, right? So deep ocean fishing should be promoted so that the fishermen issue will be solved. Then we need to ensure that strategically we need to get access to various projects in Sri Lanka. Already Hambantota port is with China, like that we should not allow, and we need to improve our hold with respect to strategic assets in Sri Lanka. That is one thing. Recently the ferry service between Tamil Nadu Sri Lanka has started, right? So read about that, which areas they are connecting, that you have to know. Then the author is also talking about the production linked incentive scheme. He is saying that the PLI scheme, it should be allowed for the they should give the incentive to the Indian companies to set up the factory in Sri Lanka and start producing there. It will be like a goodwill measure. At the same time, to promote it, it will give them PLI also. That's what she's saying. Okay, to the products that are produced and sold in Sri Lanka, he is saying give them the PLI if it is an Indian company, right? Promotion of tourism, all these things is there, improving the connectivity. Already I told you from Nagapattinam to Kangesanturai, we are already having the boat service which has resumed. All these points has been mentioned, you can just go through it, right? So historical cultural ties, right? This you are aware, there is that same old drawl from 2500 years ago, introduction of Buddhism by Asoka. All these points you can mention it, right? Economic relations, it's a good trading partner for India. We are having a India Sri Lanka free trade agreement also, right? 60% of Sri Lankan exports to India benefit, like for example tea and all. So you can go through it. Bilateral trade, it's around 3.6 billion USD, right? Energy corporation, LNG supply from India, power grid connection, petroleum pipeline, land bridge discussions are going on. See, land bridge, it's a very contentious thing, right? Well, we don't know whether we can build a bridge between India and Sri Lanka so that by road itself we can travel, or by rail we can travel. That is a different thing. So anyway, discussions are going on. So Indian tourists, many of them, they visit the Sri Lanka. It's cheap also, because Sri Lankan currency is weaker than the Indian rupee, so it's a cheap destination, right? Economical, I mean to say, right? A lot of cooperation with respect to the military exercises, Linux and all is there. You can go through it. Counter piracy efforts in Gulf of Aden, right? Colombo port, right? Colombo port is a very big port. Now in Kerala, that port we have started, right? I'm unable to recollect the name, right? I am not able to recollect. New port has been started in Kerala, and it is able to take in huge amount of it's a transshipment port, right? So that will undercut the Colombo port. Okay, that is the aim. Okay, so counter-terrorism cooperation, sharing of the intelligence regarding terrorism, all that is there. You can just go through it. So this is the location, right? So here only we are building the port, right? I'm not able to get the name of that port, right? You can comment it. So now that we are creating a port in Kerala, we wish to grab some of the business going to Sri Lanka, right? So these are some of the things. Geopolitically, lot of Chinese influence in Sri Lanka, just like how it is there in Maldives, right? Sri Lankan fishermen issue, the Tamil issue, right? 13th Amendment has not been implemented. Simply it's there in paper alone, right? Anti-India sentiment is there in Sri Lankan groups, right? So we have given them aid, neighborhood first policy. What we can do, we have done. Okay, so just go through it. So the next thing, next article, right? I think the article is not there. But anyway, we can just talk about this. So this thing is with respect to education, right? So what are the important points related to education that is mentioned here, right? Early childhood education, basic skills, right? Reducing the dropout rates, providing the skill-based vocational training, right? Ensuring that educational training as well as access to the healthcare so that all round development is there for the children, right? So that is only important, only then we can create a proper human resource. For those who are interested, skill development, Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana, Skill India Mission, right, Sector Skill Council, Samarth scheme, all that is there, so that skills trade also they will develop. Then you need to ensure that they have the access to the credit for entrepreneurship, right? Mudra Yojana, all these things can come to mind. For providing the nutrition, one nation, one ration card scheme, Poshan Abhiyan, ICDS, Anganwadi services, scheme for adolescent girls, the what is that scheme, right? They are giving the 5,000 rupees, the Matru Vandana Yojana. That will also ensure good nutrition, right? All these things you can go through it. Okay. So these are the things, right? So with that, I think the first half is over. The second half of the things, so first 19 days is over. So second half we can go through it now, right? So quickly we will run through these slides also, right? So that we'll be able to cover the entire December month by today, right? So I hope that it's being useful to you, right? I'll just have some water. You can put your comments or just go through the material, download the material, make use of it, right? So the next article, it talks about the India-Russia relationship. Okay, the author says that Russia, because of its conflict with the West, it has become more and more close to China, and this closeness, it is coming out of necessity, and China is taking advantage of this, and it is making Russia subservient, and Russia does not want to be subservient to China. It wants to be on an equal footing as equal partner with China, but the situation is such that it has to accept that subordinate role. This is where India can make use of its position and ensure that Russia does not entirely become subordinated to China or becomes as much close as possible to China. Instead, India can be that partner with Russia, so that Russia entirely does not become cornered or by China. That is the point that the author is mentioning. Very good point. And India, Russia, he has given this example, very good example of this BrahMos missile, right? India, Russia, we have together developed this BrahMos missile, right? That is why it is called as BrahMos, Brahmaputra, Moskva. Those two rivers together only shortened and made into the acronym BrahMos, right? So this BrahMos missile has now been sold to Philippines. Why? Because India, see, BrahMos missile, in the agreement itself, we have put that Russia cannot veto if India wants to sell it to another country. Russia cannot veto it. Okay, the thing is that this is possible. Russia has allowed that. They have said that though Philippines might deploy it as a deterrence against China, Russia is allowing it. So that is the closeness with which Russia is having the relationship with India. They are not allowing, they are not afraid of China and preventing India's sale to the Philippines. They are not doing that. They are allowing the sales, right? So these are some of the things in which the author has mentioned that why India Russia, that relationship can be developed, right? And especially we are importing lot of oil, cheap Russian oil. Now Russia agreed to do some of the trade in the rupees also, rupee ruble partnership, right? And apart from that, this Chennai Vladivostok corridor is also being talked about, so that also can be developed. And India is also investing in the Far East region of Russia. Okay, so usually that summit happens, Far East summit in Vladivostok. So India is participating, private sector also is investing, and with the global warming and all, the Arctic is going to become ice free. So huge amount of opportunity is there. That is why recently Donald Trump, he wants to purchase the Greenland. Okay, so that is the thing here. So just go through it. So India Russia relationship, strategically lot of things are there, benefit is there for India, we need to make use of it. Okay, historical background and all, close ties in the USSR time period itself, 1971 Indo-Soviet treaty, right? Post dissolution, we have had a good partnership with Russia, special and privileged strategic partnership, right? India, one of the largest defense partners, right? 65% of imports. Recently it has come down, the SIPRI, right, Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, it has said that it has come down below 50%. Though Russia is the biggest partner, it has come down to below 50%. Okay. Triumph S-400, we have deployed it, right, the missile defense system that is there. In addition to our PAD, AAD and all, we are having the Triumph S-400, BrahMos missile, the AK-203 rifle joint production. We are having various military exercises like Indra, right. Apart from that, a lot of other weapons also we are purchasing, even a lot of helicopters we are purchasing from Russia, right. Submarine technology, nuclear power plants like for example Kudamkulam and all, right, Sukhoi aircrafts, MiG aircrafts, right. So a lot of supplies from Russia. Apart from that, our imports of LNG, imports of crude, all that we are doing. Arctic exploration, now that the ice and all will melt, so this becomes very key. So key dimensions you can see here, 35 billion is the current rate, 50 billion is the target. Strategic sectors is there. China also has lot of minerals, so we need to sign up, deal with them. So we are trying to push the north-south transport corridor also, so that we can reach Russia, bypassing Pakistan and all. China, Pakistan will be bypassed via Iran directly. We can reach Russia. So that is the thing. Okay. So rupee ruble trade also is accepted now. So all this is there. So these are some of the points that are there. You can go through it, right? But one problem you should remember: India is part of the Quad, which Russia also does not like. Okay, China also does not like, Russia also does not like. So we need to balance it. We are there in BRICS also. We are there in SCO also, right? So we are there in G20 also. So these are all some of the things. Okay. So future prospects, make in India, energy, renewables, hydrogen, all that is there, right? Enhanced strategic reach, BRICS, SCO, EAU, all these points you can mention. Okay. Next thing, this article talks about crimes against humanity, right? As of now, crime against humanity is illegal only under the International Criminal Court, under the Rome Statute. So the author is saying that now this is getting an upgrade. Specific crime against humanity treaty is under consideration of the General Assembly. Okay, so that is what the author is mentioning. And with respect to the other big things like genocide, with respect to the war crimes, for genocide already genocide convention is there. For war crimes already the Geneva Convention is there. But for a crime against humanity, as of now, no convention is there. Only the Rome Statute deals with it. So now they are creating a UN treaty called Crime Against Humanity Treaty, under which the negotiations are ongoing. So that treaty only is the important thing mentioned here. And with respect to the definition of what is crime against humanity, India does not agree with the definition. Okay. So as a result, as of now, India is not willing to sign the Crime Against Humanity Treaty. Okay. India is also not party to the Rome Statute also. Okay. So these are some of the points that the author is highlighting. Fine. So you can go through it. What is crime against humanity? It is nothing but grave violation of human rights, right? So you need to remember, India is not signatory to the Rome Statute. India is not interested in the signing the Crime Against Humanity Treaty also. So legal framework, you can go through it here. International Military Tribunal, Nuremberg trials, Rome Statute 1998. So Universal Declaration of Human Rights 1948. So that we are a member. Okay. Customary international law, crimes against humanity as just cogents. That is, just cogents means it's a crime against humanity is a severe crime. Okay, it's a compelling crime. So there needs to be a law against it. That's the meaning of just cogents. It's compelling enough for it to warrant a law. Okay. So what are the characteristics? Targeting the civilian. It can be carried out by the state. Okay. So these are some of the things: enslavement, extermination, apartheid, murder, institutional violence, all these things. Examples they have given: Holocaust, Rwandan genocide, Bosnian war, apartheid, Myanmar Rohingya crisis, right? They should add the Kashmir Pandit issue also in this. That's also an example of textbook case of ethnic cleansing, but unfortunately they don't do. Okay, so challenges in addressing crimes against humanity: lack of universal jurisdiction, victim rehabilitation, delayed justice, lack of enforcement mechanisms, political interference. So India is not a signatory, okay, not a signatory of Rome Statute, as well as we don't want to sign the crime against humanity. We don't accept the definition. Okay. So next important article with respect to the once again related to the climate. Recently this IPBES is there, right? You might have heard of this IPBES, Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity Ecosystem Services. It's a global NGO, and it has given this report, okay, and in that report it has highlighted 5 major challenges facing the humanity: climate change, biodiversity loss, food insecurity, water scarcity, health risk, okay. And the report is telling that all of them is resulting in loss of nearly 10 to 25 trillion dollars annually. These 5 problems are costing us this much money is what that particular report has told, okay. So this IPBES, it's a separate international NGO, okay. It works with the UN, that is it collaborates with the UN, but it is not under the UN, okay. It's a separate organization. India is a member of this IPBES, okay. And this particular IPBES report, what it has told is 75% of the earth's land, 66% of the marine environment, they have been significantly altered, and over 85% of the wetlands have already been lost. And all these shocking revelations resulted in the creation of this Kunming Montreal GBF, Global Biodiversity Framework. And in that some targets are there, 23 targets are there, right? By 2030 we have to meet them, right? It's called as this 30 into 30 targets, 30 into 30 targets, right? So we want to protect 30% of the land and freshwater and marine ecosystems, restore them at least 30% of the degraded ecosystem by 2030. That's why it's called 30-30, okay. So these are some of the points, you can go through it, okay. It has been summarized, right? Because of a lack of time I am doing it a little bit fast, okay, but everything whatever is there in the article, take the data, note it down. Most of the things we are giving it in the notes format also, already it is there, so you can directly make use of the material as well, okay. So these are all some of the points, okay. It is costing 558 trillion annual global cost of biodiversity loss, okay. So that much serious problem, okay. And 1 trillion annual biodiversity is the funding gap to restore the biodiversity, so that much funding gap is there, so that also you have to highlight, okay. So what is IPBES? It's a global NGO, right? More than 130 countries are there as members, including India. Main thing, it is to serve as a policy platform wherein evidence will be created and provided. Lot of research will happen, they will collect the evidence and then say that biodiversity is affected and why we should protect them, okay. So it helps us in understanding the situation and making the policy accordingly, okay. So we can go through it here, key IPBES reports and all, right. The next article, it is with respect to the rupee depreciation, right? Rupee, you might have seen, it was 80 rupees per dollar, then 84, 86, now it is 86 and a half per US dollar. Another year it will become 90, then it will become 95. That is the biggest problem. So if you are working in US and then sending the money back to India, a lot of profit for you, but you are going to the US for education, right? If say for example $1,000 is the fee, previously I paid 80,000 rupees, now I have to pay 1 lakh rupees. So more and more I have to shell out more. You are taking the education loan, then imagine it will increase more and more and more, okay. So that is the thing here. Depreciation, it is very bad for the importer. For exporter it is jolly time only, okay. So it's not good, constant depreciation, it's not that good, okay. So it will result in very costly imports, right? And if our currency is not strengthening, then it will weaken our stance with respect to becoming a globally accepted currency. It will, once again, it's not that good, need to be a strong currency, right? So these are some of the points: impacts of rupee depreciation, pressure on the forex reserves, impact on the exports, higher fuel prices, because we have to import the crude oil, right? So there are certain steps the RBI is taking to address this, right? Ensure that there will be adequate dollar available, so that the demand for dollar will come down and the depreciation will cool off, okay. So rupee depreciation has to be addressed, raising the repo rate to attract the investment and curb inflation, easing the restrictions on foreign investment so that more dollar will be available, encouraging in currency swaps, right? So all these points you can mention, okay. So broader measures for macroeconomic stability. See, that's the thing. Only if you have macroeconomic stability, only then there will be confidence with respect to the investors in our economy, okay. So diversifying the trade partners, promoting digital payments, strengthening FDI, encouraging exports, all these things should be there, right? So we'll move on to the next article. Once again, it is with respect to global warming, right? So global warming now, once again, we might have seen the data in 2025, 2024, more than 175 days, the temperature has already been above 1.5 degrees Celsius, which was supposed to be the threshold under the Paris Agreement. 175 days already in 2024, it has exceeded that particular threshold. Okay, so the window is very less. The target of achieving the 1.5 degree Celsius, limiting the temperature rise to 1.5 degree Celsius compared to the pre-industrial level, it's a very difficult to achieve it. It's becoming more and more difficult. Okay, so that is what this particular article is talking. Except the Europe, others are not taking that much action. Okay, so Europe has implemented this bold move, carbon border adjustment mechanism. So any country which is not having the same stringent greenhouse gas emissions measures as Europe, any product that is produced there, it will be taxed very high when it is going to be imported into EU. So that is the main point here, because for any industry to be set up in EU, the cost is very high. So as a result, the importers, they must not take advantage of it and import the cheap goods elsewhere from, right? So though they are putting this carbon tax so that import also product will be hiked, so that the domestic manufacturing will still remain. So this is a very bold move done by them, right? And recently you might have been aware, Donald Trump, he has just a few hours back, he has given the 5-point main things that he is going to concentrate on. He has said that he will increase the fossil fuel production. Okay, and this targets like ensuring that 50% of the vehicles sold will be EV by 2030, which the previous Biden administration brought in. He has said that those things will not be doubled down on. Okay, so here the article talks about the peaking of emissions. So the sooner we peak with respect to the emissions, then we will start to plateau and then go down. This peak should come as early as possible, though we have not officially said when we will peak, but we should do it as soon as possible, right? Because climate change, the natural hazards, they don't respect the natural boundaries, right? So these are some of the points, right? And we need to ensure that a lot of renewable energy reactors are going to be set up. Afforestation is very important. We need to do that also, right? We need to promote the small modular nuclear reactors. That's very important, right? And the COP29 Azerbaijan, it's very disappointing. The developed countries have promised that by 2035, every year they will be able to give 300 billion. So what that means is, maybe in 2025 they might give 50 billion or 100 billion or some money they will give. Only by 2035 that money will become 300 billion per year. Until then, what money they will give per year, that they are coolly, they have ignored. They are not saying what they will give. Right? So that's the big problem. Imagine, they are saying that by 2035 we will give 300 billion. Okay, until 2035 every year how much money they are going to give, that they are not saying, right? It can eventually, it will become 300 billion. That is the meaning. Okay, very clever, right? So that's the thing. So climate change, what it is, all that you know. Right now you can see what is happening in California, right? Everything is burning down, right? You might have seen the California fires. Nobody knows how it started, but climate change and drought is one of the key reasons why it's this much severe. And every year there are forest fires happening in Australia, happening in Canada, right? And recently in the Japanese island of Hokkaido, right, you might have seen in the news, right, the Ainu people who are indigenous to Hokkaido, they call it as the island of the gods. And the highest temperature there until now is 21 degrees Celsius, but already it has now seen 24 degrees Celsius. So that is the biggest problem. Okay, so lot of alterations are happening, right? Heat waves, they are happening everywhere, even in Europe, US and all, and Spain and all, every year heat wave happening, so they are suffering. And even in our country, especially in the Himalayan regions, a glacial lake outburst, flood and all, it's increasing. Recently in Sikkim, entire hydroelectric power plant along with the workers and all, they got washed away. This thing was repeated already, that happened once in Uttarakhand, right? So all these are problems. Currently what the carbon dioxide is 428 parts per million, it was only 200 in 1750, more than doubled. All these problems are there. Okay, so go through it, somehow we need to solve this issue. And we gave our COP26 enhanced NDC. Under that Panchamrit 5 targets are there. One is reducing the emission intensity as a percentage of GDP compared to 2005 by 2030 by 45%. That was the first target. Second, 500 gigawatt of non-fossil fuel energy capacity, then 50% of installed capacity from renewables, additional sequestration of 1 billion ton of CO2. Already in our NDC 2 to 3 we gave promise, 2 to 3 billion tons of CO2 will be sequestered. Now 1 billion more we are going to sequester. And then net zero by 2070, that is our Panchamrit, all these 5, right? So be aware of them. And global methane pledge, one thing is there, India is not a member of that, okay, because methane, it is emitted by agriculture, and we cannot force our farmers do this, do that and all, already, because our farmers are all small and marginalized farmers. So global methane pledge, we are not part of it, okay. So challenges in achieving net zero, so the challenges are there, right? Ensuring green growth, right? Those countries and all, they grew without taking into account any net zero or any thing at all. But we have to concentrate on the net zero, and our GDP growth should be green, it should be sustainable. They didn't worry about all those things. They grew at the other countries' cost. Which countries? The Western countries grew at the cost of least developed and African countries, India, least developed countries, developing nations. At their cost, the developed countries grew excessively. Now when we are having the growth, all these problems have already come, right? So historical, that legacy responsibility is there for the Western nations. That is why we always highlight, right, common but differentiated responsibility, like that. Steps taken towards net zero, all these points you can highlight. Promoting the renewable energy efficiency, right? Pat, we've already discussed that in detail, remember? Perform, achieve and trade, right? Perform, achieve and trade is there. Energy savings certificate, that particular scheme is there, right? You are also having the green credit program, that also we discussed. Integrated carbon market, that also is going to come. Carbon credit trading scheme, that also we saw. So please remember all those things. FAME 2 is there. Next, latest one, E-Drive scheme, National Green Hydrogen Mission. For afforestation, right? Trees outside forest initiative is there. National Bamboo Mission is there. CAMPA, Compensatory Afforestation Fund Management Planning Authority, that is there. Green India Mission is there. Apart from that, Nagar One Yojana, that is also there. Remember all these schemes, okay. For mangroves, our Mishti scheme is there, okay. So remember these schemes, put it at the appropriate place, right? Promoting the renewable energy, International Solar Alliance is there, PM Kusum is there, Muft Bijli Yojana is there. So remember those schemes, okay. Next thing, this is about the bureaucracy, especially the IAS, right? So the author wants to bring in some modernization in the services with respect to the IAS, right? And one main modernization with respect to the IAS, the government tried to bring in the lateral entry, okay. And already there has been lot of pushback, right? In lateral entry, reservation is not there, and lateral entry, lot of pushback is there, both from within the service as well as outside the service, okay. So as a result, that lateral entry approach has been dropped, okay. Lot of protest there, okay. So electorally huge pressure is there, as well as from within the service also. So lateral entry has been closed as of now, okay. One, he is highlighting some of the problems with respect to the IAS, so you can make note of all these points, okay. A lack of bringing in the specialists, frequent transfers, political interference, then promotions based on seniority and not based on skill, All these things the author has mentioned, and he has also given some committees, what the first ARC commission, what reforms they want to bring in, second ARC commission, what reforms they want to bring in with respect to the UPSC, the latest thing regarding the lateral entry, all those points are mentioned. Please go through it. Okay. So what is the civil service, especially IAS? It's from the Indian, so Indian civil service itself is from Imperial Civil Service only. Then it became the IAS, right? All India services are there. Okay, so it's the steel frame. IAS is known as the steel frame. Okay, role of civil services in a democracy, all these points you can think of, not an issue, right? Ensuring advisory role, rule of law, implementation of the policy, ensuring government services reach the public, all these are things. Crisis management, social integration, developmental role, addressing the grievance of citizens, all these are there. Capacity building for civil services, mission Karma Yogi is there. They also have this app, I got Karma Yogi app is there, so that on the digital platform the civil servants can undergo the periodic training. And you might have heard this Karma Yogi mission follows the 70-20-10 principle. 70% on the job training, okay, 20% through networking and learning from the others, that they will learn. 10% only is the separate training on the app through course and all will be given. Okay, so that is only the mission Karma Yogi. Okay, so apart from that, induction and all training for the IAS happens at LBSNA, you know this. Lal Bahadur Shastri National Academy of Administration is there in Missouri. Okay, leadership development programs that also take place every now and then. Even you have the sabbatical and all, the bureaucrats can take the leave, they can go upgrade their skills, come back, all that is given. Okay, national program for civil services capacity building, that is only another name for Karma Yogi. Okay, remember that it's not separate, both are same only. Okay, digital governance training program. Okay, so for example, they are giving the awareness regarding the various issues through the digital means itself, and they are teaching them how the digital means can be given, used for governance. Okay, so only issue is lack of specialists, frequent transfers, all these are some of the problems. Okay, politicization, corruption, accountability, red tapeism, right? Seniority based promotions, and they are not giving the recognition to the people who are really working hard. So all these points you can mention. Okay, so they have once again given some solutions also, right? Merit based recruitment, already merit based only recruitment is happening. So what are they trying to imply? I don't know, right? 60% reservation is there, then merit based recruitment, in that what we can do, only we can do, right? Lateral entry expansion. Now once again, see, we can say lateral entry we can expand, but when we expand lateral entry, we are recruiting from the private. In that reservation is not there, right? So once again, if you are going to put reservation in that, then you will get angry and say no, it's not merit based. If reservation is not there, then it is against the marginalized section, that also the people will same complain. Right? So damned if you do, damned if you don't. It's that type of situation, right? So training, capacity building, accountability mechanism, depoliticization, focus on specialization, grievance redressal, diversity and inclusion. I don't know what new thing has come now, diversity and inclusion. Maybe we must dress up as a cow, dog, donkey, and then I think we must go. What, I don't know. Anyway, modernization, all that is there. So next we'll go on to the next article, right? Another around 100 slides are there. We'll try to finish it in half an hour. Right, so they're talking about GST. This was also there in the news, how caramel popcorn is taxed at different rate, plain popcorn taxed at a different rate. So if it is mixed with sugar, 18%, all this is there, right? And this is a biggest issue, this is a real problem. Okay, India is one of the countries where we are having multiple slabs, nearly 5 slabs we are having in taxation, right? There are nearly 50 countries in the world having only the one slab of taxation. More the slabs, more problem it is going to become. Okay, lot of confusion is there, right? This bun means like this much percentage, cream bun means this much percentage, choco bun means this much percentage. Lot of confusion is there, and this is unnecessarily increasing the cost of complaints, causing the headache. On one side we are fighting ease of doing business, ease of living, we are making it not a crime to be an entrepreneur, all that they are saying, but on the other hand all these problems are there, right? So just to go through it, know what is tax. There are different types of tax, direct tax, indirect tax. What is the difference, you have to know. right? About GST, these things have been asked. GST is the 101st constitutional amendment. They actually asked in the exam. They gave which of the following refers to GST: 101, 100, 103, 102, like that they gave. Okay, so what is the difference between direct tax, indirect tax? What is GST? How it has subsumed the indirect tax? Right, GST is a destination based tax. What is the meaning of that? How it is avoiding the cascading of taxes? All that you have to know. Okay, taxation before GST, how many different types of taxes? VAT is there, entry tax, entertainment tax, octroi, all these things were there. These things got subsumed, right? Taxation after GST, somehow now we are having a decent framework, right? It's an example of fiscal cooperation, so fiscal federalism, all that is there, cooperation between the states, right? So GST council is there, so that will so all the states together only taking the decision, fixing the rates under GST, right? So 5 slabs, some things are exempted like fresh produce, books and all, some at 5%, some at 12, some at 18, some at 28%. So these are the different slabs of GST. So just go through it, right? So simplifying the tax system, if you are having 5 slabs and they keep on changing, it goes against this very statement. So that's something that the government has to take into account. Still there are some exclusions, alcohol, petroleum and all are still outside GST, right? So can have to go through that also. You can see GST on health insurance, 18% on policies exceeding 5 lakh. It's a huge amount, right? So anyway, next article, it is with respect to this article regarding Kazakhstan. Very, very good article this was, right? We already discussed how the rare earths are found in China. Now here, these rare earths are also found in Kazakhstan also. Okay, China is accounting for 70% of the rare earth production, but they will not export it. Okay, they will not give it to West or to India. They can make us dependent on it, and then once they become a monopoly, they will squeeze us. Okay, so that is why we need to sign the agreements with Kazakhstan, because the rare earths are found a huge amount in Kazakhstan. It's a very good article. Please read this article. Okay, how in Kazakhstan we are having large amount of minerals. Also, Kazakhstan is the biggest producer of the uranium also. Okay, so already we are having lot of imports of uranium for Kazakhstan. So we need to sign the agreements for securing the rare earth supply from Kazakhstan. That is what the author is saying. And already for ensuring the critical minerals, we are part of the Critical Mineral Alliance, which is a US-led alliance. We are member of that. We are having the India-Australia Strategic Mineral Partnership, that also we are already having. Now the author is saying that we need to have one such alliance with Kazakhstan also, considering the fact that we are having the semiconductor mission. We want to invest heavily in the EVs, batteries and all. So for that, if you have to do it, you need to have all these minerals. Okay, so rare earth minerals, you can see which of the things are found in the Kazakhstan: dysporium, lanthanum, tungsten, uranium, antimony, scandium, neodymium, cerium, all these are present, right? Rare earths are nothing but these lanthanoid elements, right? All these lanthanoid elements you might have heard in school in periodic table, right? Why we call it rare earth is extracting them and producing them very difficult, but they are needed for all the next generation technologies, whether it is your semiconductor device or battery storage, you need that. Okay, you can see the applications. They are used in smartphones, wind turbines, missile guidance, radar, MRI, X-rays, right? So lot of applications are there, and they have given the data. China, it is dominating the rare earth production. India, very less only. Okay, Kazakhstan is the emerging area with huge potential, so we have to sign the agreement to get the supply from there. Okay, and they have given the example how the China restricted the rare earth export to Japan. They can do so at any point of time to anybody also. Okay, so that is the thing. Go through it, right? Next thing, our former Prime Minister, Finance Minister, right, RBI Governor, Manmohan Singh ji passed away, right? So we might be aware. So it becomes essential to know his achievements, right? So Manmohan Singh has contributed hugely, right? Manmohan Singh has contributed hugely to the economic situation in this country, right? As RBI governor, he had done a huge amount of progress as finance minister, he did a huge amount of progress for India, right? As a prime minister also, in his first term, lot of important schemes he brought about. In his second term, of course, a lot of corruption issues happened. Okay, so one by one we will see, right? Whatever is given in the article, we can summarize it, right? So first thing, as RBI governor, right, Manmohan Singh ji, he created this adjustment in the strategy, this SLR, right, statutory liquidity ratio. SLR at one point of time, it was around 28 percentage, 28-30%, and the government wanted to increase the SLR even more. Okay, because inflation was very high in those times. And Manmohan Singh, he very boldly told to the government that if we are going to increase it even more, nobody is going to get any loan at all. A huge amounts of money will be kept with the bank only, and we are not going to increase the SLR. And then very boldly, from 28%, he brought it down to 9%. And at the same time, the inflation, which was very high, it moderated to around 5%. So despite reducing the SLR, freeing more credit, helping the entrepreneurs, he was able to bring down the inflation to 5% also. Now you understand the basic macroeconomics. If more and more easy, cheap loans are available, more money with the people, more demand, automatically more inflation. But not only he made the loans available more, he also ensured inflation moderated to 5%. Okay, so for that he brought the repo rate and all, right? So that you have to give him credit. Okay, then he also created lot of monetary policy reforms. Okay, as during his term as RBI governor, then he became the finance minister, and this very well we know how he brought in the liberalization, privatization, globalization and all, right? How he broke down the Nehruvian socialism, that license Raj, that nightmare ended, and LPG reforms were brought in, right? Reduced the import tariffs, trade liberalization, established the SEBI, helped groom the capital market. Okay, he also brought in some tax reforms, right, regarding the services. Okay, opened the economy to foreign investment, eliminated this licensing and quota Raj and all. Okay, and as prime minister also, in his first term, right to education, Narega, then our National Food Security Act 2011, right? So those are all very important achievements that he did. Okay, so of course these are some of the important thing, right? Post PM contributions, he advocated for the growth and all. Of course he also, some avenues of criticism and all is there, right? The amount of corruption that happened during the second term of his UPA second term when he was prime minister, Commonwealth Games scam, coal scam, 2G scam, right? Adarsh housing scam, right? So many scams happened. Augusta Westland, that chopper scam, right? So many scams happened, that and all is there. It happened under his tenure only, right? Anyway, with respect to the positives also there are points, with respect to negatives also there are points. You can see how the GDP growth happened, you can see how the poverty reduced, how we became a key service sector IT exporter, how our banking system is now today. Lot of contribution was done by Dr. Singh. Okay, India's banking regulation is one of the best in the world. So definitely in that and all, Manmohan Singh has played a huge role. Okay, some of the negative impacts, right? Policy paralysis, corruptions, scams, right? All these things, import dependence, increased the imports, balance of payment, that it aggravated, inequality also has increased. All these some issues are there, right? So you can just go through it. So this is the thing, right? History will be kind, but not to Prime Minister Singh, but to Manmohan Singh, who, the individual, he will be given respect, but as Prime Minister in the second term, it will not be kind. That is what the author is saying. So just to go through it, all the points that we have discussed, most of these points are already there, right? So you can just go through that. The next article is also a very good article. It talks about the increasing number of suicides, especially in the IITs and all, by the people from the vulnerable communities. Recently there was one news about one particular person from the scheduled caste community. He was not able to afford the fees in the IIT, and this resulted in him forfeiting his seat. Then this thing became viral in the internet, and then they were able to pay his fees and all. Now to solve this type of problem only, the PM Vidya Lakshmi scheme is there. Okay, under the Vidya Lakshmi scheme, for the people who are having from the poor families, okay, they are being given a collateral free loan at subsidized interest rate. Okay, so that is what is mentioned here, Vidya Lakshmi scholarship. Okay, so you can mention that, but again the author has also mentioned very well, this IIM and all, the fees is 30 lakhs, 40 lakhs. The Vidya Lakshmi scheme, it covers only 8 to 10 lakhs, not above that. So 30 lakhs, 40 lakhs, how the poor people will afford? That is what the data the author is saying. Okay, it's a very good point that he is making. Okay, so those things you have to make a note of, and already there are some discrimination issues also. Every now and then some caste discrimination, this discrimination news also comes, so that type of things also has to be addressed. And for the people from the weaker sections, bridge course and all they are conducting, that also has to be strengthened further so that such instances don't happen. So you can go through the article, right? So these are the basically the overview of it. High fees, inability to afford, Vidya Lakshmi scheme is insufficient. That's what I told you. 8 lakh to 10 lakh it is bearing. Beyond that, IIM and all, 30 lakhs, 40 lakhs fees, right? And sometimes caste based discrimination also happens. So that is one point. Huge amount of people from SC, ST, OBC students, they have dropped out. Okay, so they are saying that faculty in the IIT faculty, only 5% are from marginalized groups. So that they have mentioned. 38% of IIT graduates are unemployed in 2024. Okay, so constitutional safeguards regarding equality and all, equal rights and treatment, no discrimination, special provisions for backward groups, even there in the directive principles also, right? The government should improve the work and strive for improving the conditions of the weaker sections, all that is there, right? So please remember all these things. Okay, abolition of untouchability, even the PCR Act is there, right? Prohibition of discrimination against the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe Act is there, right? All these points you can mention. Remember the articles and the description, it's very important. 5th schedule, 6th schedule, protection of scheduled caste, scheduled tribe from exploitation, right? All these things, remember it. Indira Sane case related to the reservations, right? You must not increase it beyond 50%, but of course now it's 60%, right? They are saying that, but a minority school means no reservation. Now once again, so that is a dubious double standards that is existing in the constitution, right? What are the government welfare schemes for the vulnerable sections? Pre-metric, post-metric scholarship is very, very important. You are having the national fellowship for the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, OBCs, that is there. Vidya Lakshmi loan scheme, right? Free coaching schemes for SC, OBC is there. Free coaching scheme, seed initiative for the denotified tribes, seed scheme, that is also there. Ekalavya model residential school for the scheduled tribe students, this is there. Sreshta scheme is there for the scheduled caste students, that you can also mention. PM SSV scholarship, yes, very famous, right? Ambedkar post metric scholarship is there. National overseas scheme, that is also there. Samagra Siksha for inclusive education, midday meal scheme, that is now known as PM Poshan. All these things are there for the vulnerable sections. It is there for scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, OBCs. For the denotified tribes, it is there. You can go through it. Okay, top class education scheme, that is also there. Scheme for overseas education, for that also loans are being given, right? So all these points you can go through it. So the next article, it is with respect to the Korea, right? You might have heard recently in Korea what happened. The president got impeached and all, right? The president, whatever party that he is belonging, he got a very low margin of votes during the election, and somehow they were able to win. But then, in various issues, there were a lot of fight between the government and the opposition, and then this martial law was imposed, that the president got impeached. All these things happened, right? So we will just take the opportunity to understand how the India-South Korea relations are there from the UPSC perspective, right? So from the UPSC perspective, if you see, it is a part of our Act East policy. South Korea is included. Okay, South Korea recognized POK, right? Formal relations in 1973. 2000 onwards, SEPA is there. In 2009, boosted the trade, culture, political cooperation. 1980s and 1990s, economic liberalization and all happened, and South Korean companies, you can take like Kia, Hyundai and all, they have invested in India. That is the main thing here. Okay, so huge amount of FDI they have invested in India, right? Whether it is Hyundai or Kia or Samsung. Okay, even Sanyong Rexton, that company, they have a joint venture with Mahindra, so that also is there. So Indian exports, we are importing only the primary commodities. You can see here iron ore, agriculture and all. Whereas Korea, right, what is they are doing? We are importing from Korea the electronics, machinery, steel and all. So finished products we are importing. That is why that's a problem. Okay, so shared security interest is there. Now once again, South Korea and Japan, they don't get along well. So India gets along very well with Japan, but not that much with South Korea. That is there. Okay, so some of the opportunities where we can collaborate, because they are a very highly industrialized country with a huge amount of scientific capability. We can collaborate with them in the semiconductor alliance, semiconductor fabrication, all these points, quantum computing, robotics, right? With respect to the green technology also, whether it is the renewable hydrogen energy storage, that also there is a huge potential for us to cooperate with South Korea. That is what is mentioned here. Okay, so cultural gap is there with respect to South Korea, the trade disparity, right? We are exporting very less, importing more. Those points you can mention. Okay, now going to the next article. Once again, it is with respect to the substandard medicines only. We already saw this, right? How the generic medicines, the quality is not that good. One of the main points is that we already saw this, right? The best manufacturing practices for export, that is different, whereas for selling in India, it is bit of low standard. So CDSCO has to take into account this and ensure that the medicines, whatever we are getting, the generics, right, they will be of the good quality, right? So these things we have already seen. So we can go to the next thing, right? So I think the last article, right, it is with respect to democracy, right? I think we've already finished it. Yeah. The last thing with respect to democracy. So what is democracy? The basics from the Greek term demos, people, kratos means rule. So the brief history of democracy, 5th century BC, Athens, then Roman influence, then our European philosophers, Rousseau, John Locke, all of them are there. Then the French Revolution, the American Revolution, right? Liberty, equality, fraternity, all these points, right? Then the women's suffrage, right? India had the women's suffrage a lot earlier than many of the Western countries. One person, one vote was there even before it happened in US, right? So the important quotes by the different philosophers, this you should be aware. Okay, what Aristotle had mentioned, what Rousseau has mentioned, what James Stuart Mill has mentioned, all these things is very important. Okay, different types of democracy, direct democracy, representative elected, constitutional, participatory, all these things you have to know. And even the features, right? You have the referendum, plebiscite, all these things also you have to know, right to recall, know those things also. All these things, comparison of the different constitutions of the different countries, it's there in the GS2. Please study it. Okay, free and fair elections, what is rule of law, right? The rule of law, what is there in UK, what is the difference, how the rule of law is applied in India, right? Here the constitution is the source of fundamental rights, whereas in UK it is the verdicts given by the court, that is the source of the fundamental rights, right? So the difference is there with respect to rule of law, so that you should be aware, right? So some even the parliamentary innovations like a zero hour and all, it is deepening the democracy. So study those things, separation of powers, fundamental rights, even the principle of secularism, the principle of federalism, all that is there. Okay, inclusive governance. So go through these points, very important, how the Indian constitution is incorporating all these things. And the latest thing, to ensure that grassroots level democracy is there, we are having the urban local bodies, rural local bodies, all these things. And how the judiciary has developed the concept of basic structure doctrine protecting the democracy. So that also you can go through it. Okay, so challenges to democracy, right? Corruption, red tapeism, how the minority appeasement and all these things are happening, right? The politicization of every issue. So all these are some of the challenges. Go through it. What are the way forward? Promoting the transparency, accountability, awareness, education, all these points, right? So we can stop here, right? So any questions are there, put it in the comment box. Okay. The rest of the thing we'll again meet in the January month, so we will see that. So make use of the material. Any questions you can reach out to us. You're writing the mains answers, you can put the thing, we'll evaluate and we'll give you feedback, right? Hope you found it useful, right? Thank you very much.